It began like any other day. The smell of roasted coffee beans drifted through the air. A soft jazz melody played from an old speaker in the corner. The golden morning sun spilled gently across the cafe's wooden floors. And there they were, two strangers, sitting just a few feet apart, yet separated by an ocean of silence. Every morning, at precisely 8:15, she walked in, her hair tied in a messy bun, a navy blue scarf draped carelessly around her neck, and that book, always the same book with weathered pages and coffee stains on the cover. He was always there before her, near the window. Laptop open, fingers hovering over the keyboard. A cup of black coffee sat untouched at his side, steam curling into the air like secrets waiting to escape. His eyes would find her for a fraction of a second, then retreat as if he had no right to linger. She did the same, catching stolen glimpses when he was lost in thought. They never spoke. Not once. But they met every single day. Until the last day, when everything changed. The cafe wasn't extraordinary. It was small, tucked between a flower shop and a bookstore that smelled of dust and forgotten stories. But inside, it felt like a refuge. Warm amber lights, the rhythmic clinking of cups, the aroma of vanilla syrup mingling with freshly ground beans. Her name was Emily Carter, 30 years old. A writer, or trying to be. Her life was an unfinished draft, filled with pages that didn't quite fit together. She came here for inspiration, for solace, or maybe just for routine. She ordered a caramel latte every morning and sat at the corner table by the window. The world outside passed by in blurs, while she underlined words that spoke louder than life itself. Across the room sat Daniel Hayes, 32. A man who believed in logic, not fate. A software engineer with a life that felt like a string of deadlines and empty screens. Yet here, inside these walls, time softened its grip. Here, he felt something he couldn't explain. Something he only felt when she walked in. For 3 months, this was their silent dance. A glance when the other wasn't looking. A heartbeat that quickened when they did. Two people sharing space, sharing mornings, sharing 1,000 unsaid words, without ever speaking. Why didn't they break the silence? Maybe fear, maybe pride. Or maybe they knew some things are too fragile to touch. Emily noticed the little things about him. How he always ordered black coffee but barely drank it. How his fingers tapped a nervous rhythm on the wooden table when he stared out the window. How he smiled faintly at the barista's jokes, even when he looked exhausted. Daniel noticed her too. How her scarf changed colors, but her eyes never did. They carried a storm. How she underlined certain lines in her book with such intensity, as if those words were lifeboats keeping her afloat. And how sometimes, just for a moment, she looked like she was holding back tears, but never let them fall. They were strangers, yet somehow, not really. And what neither of them knew was that life had already begun its countdown. It was a Friday in November. The city was painted in gray, rain streaking the windows like nature's tears. Emily walked in, her scarf damp, her steps heavier than usual. Her smile, the faint one she wore like armor, was gone. She sat down, opened her notebook, and froze. For the first time, her pen didn't move. Daniel saw it. Something in him ached. He wanted to ask, "Are you okay?" The words reached his throat, but never made it out. Fear held them hostage. Then her phone rang. A short conversation. A soft, breaking, "I understand." When she hung up, she closed her eyes and he saw it. A single tear. Silent. Gone before it hit the page. That was the first time he almost stood up. Almost. But almost doesn't count. Later, when the cafe emptied, Emily wrote in her notebook, "What if the person you need most is sitting just a few steps away and you never find the courage to speak?" Monday came. The cafe was quieter, as if holding its breath. Daniel came early, rehearsing lines in his mind like prayers. "Hi, I've seen you here a lot. Hi, I'm Daniel. Hi." But 8:15 passed. Then 8:30. Emily didn't come. Her chair, always hers, sat empty like an open wound in the room. He waited. An hour. 2. She never came. For the first time in 3 months, Daniel left with a weight he didn't know how to carry. The next day, she returned. Different scarf, same storm. But this time, she wasn't alone. A man walked in beside her. Tall, confident, carrying her bag as if it belonged in his hands. They sat at her usual table. The man's laugh filled the air, and when Emily smiled, a real smile, Daniel felt something inside him shatter. He wanted to leave. But heartbreak has a way of nailing your feet to the ground. The next morning was their last chance. Neither of them knew it, but life did. Emily came alone this time, no storm in her eyes, just quiet surrender. She ordered her caramel latte and walked toward her usual table, then stopped. For the first time, she looked at Daniel. Really looked. Not a stolen glance, not a fleeting second. A gaze that held every word they'd never spoken. And then she smiled, a small, breaking smile that said everything and nothing at once. Daniel's heart pounded so hard it hurt. He stood, finally. His legs shook as he crossed the floor. Every step felt like a lifetime. When he reached her, his voice betrayed him, trembling. "Hi, I've seen you here a lot." She laughed softly, like rain sliding down glass. "I know. I've seen you too." For a heartbeat, the universe paused, just for them. And then she spoke the words that shattered him. "I'm moving tomorrow, across the country. This was my last day here." The silence that followed was deafening. Daniel swallowed hard. "Why? Why didn't you say something before?" Her eyes glistened. "Why didn't you?" There was so much to say, 1,000 what-ifs crashing between them, but all they had was now. Can I see you again?" Daniel asked, his voice raw with desperation. Emily smiled, a smile that hurt more than words. Maybe in another life. And then she did something he never expected. She tore a page from her notebook, folded it gently and pressed it into his hand. Before he could speak, she was gone, just like that. Daniel unfolded the paper with trembling fingers. On it, a single line. Sometimes silence says everything words can't. Daniel stood frozen, the note shaking in his hand as the cafe emptied around him. Outside, the city carried on, horns blaring, footsteps rushing, laughter echoing. Life moved forward. But inside that little cafe, time stood still. He walked to the window, staring at the street where she had disappeared. Rain began to fall again, soft and relentless, smearing the world into watercolor shades of sorrow. For the first time, Daniel understood. Love isn't always about perfect beginnings or happy endings. Sometimes it's about the spaces in between. The glances you steal, the words you never say, the moments you'll replay in your mind forever. He folded the note like it was holy, tucked it into his wallet, and whispered to no one, maybe in another life. Speak, before it's too late, because the words you're afraid to say today might become the regrets you carry forever.